Group 158, which got this great title, No Prayer for the Crooning.
Oh, yeah. That tells you something straight away, doesn't it?
It really does. The range in this group is just massive. Try and picture these four together.
Yeah.
We've got Wish by The Cure.
Okay. Classic alternative.
Then The Very Best of Andy Williams.
Total opposite direction. Crooner Central.
Then add in Hefty Fine by Bloodhound Gang.
Right. The rock crap humor guys. Completely different again.
And finally, No Prayer for the Dying by Iron Maiden.
Heavy metal legends. So yeah, The Cure, Andy Williams, Bloodhound Gang, Iron Maiden. If you actually put those four records next to each other on a shelf, they'd probably, I don't know, repel each other.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a bizarre mix.
It's definitely a stress test for the author's ability to switch gears critically. And the way this group shook out, well, it makes you question what quality even means when you're forced into these random matchups.
So let's get straight to it, because the result was maybe a bit surprising. The winner, taking first place pretty easily, was Andy Williams. Very best of. How does that happen? How does this collection of super polished, old school crooner tunes beat out rock and metal heavyweights?
Well, the blog puts it down to one main thing.
Yeah.
Pure, undeniable familiarity. Williams's voice, the songs themselves, they're just so deeply embedded in, the cultural wallpaper.
Right.
The author basically says they transcend normal critique. They just feel like old friends.
And we're not talking deep cuts here, are we? This is the greatest hits.
Exactly. It's the big ones. Moon River, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Can't Take My Eyes Off You, even the duet, Something Stupid.
Songs everyone knows.
Absolutely. The author calls Williams an old school crooner, flawless delivery, lush backing. And in a weird group like this, that kind of straightforward, comfortable, recognized quality, it won.
Okay, but hang on. If the whole point of the album quest is finding the best album ever, doesn't Williams winning just because he's familiar and, well, nice? Doesn't that kind of expose a problem with the system itself? Is familiarity basically a cheat code here?
That's a fantastic question, and I think it's exactly what this group highlights. The random draw is meant to strip away context, right? But what it actually shows is that when you force these weird fights, the album that causes the least sort of critical friction often wins.
Like comfort food.
Precisely. It's like comfort food versus some challenging experimental dish. Williams is the mashed potatoes. Everyone gets mashed potatoes. It's easy.
Okay, that makes sense. Which makes the jump to the album that came in third place even more jarring. If Andy Williams is pure wholesome crooning, then Bloodhound Gang's Hefty Fine is way over at the other end. The puerile humor of rock rap, as the author put it.
Yeah, polar opposites.
How did the reviewer even manage that mental shift, going from smooth vocals to, well, Bloodhound Gang?
You can tell from the writing he was definitely grappling with it. The whiplash is obvious. 1 minute praising perfect polish, the next discussing, deliberately silly and often pretty crude jokes.
Right.
But still, Hefty Fine got third place. It beat The Cure. So there must have been something musically solid there beneath all the jokes.
What did he actually point to? Because, let's be honest, Bloodhound Gang's reputation isn't usually built on stunning musicianship.
No, fair point. But the review did find things. It specifically calls out a sharp guitar line on the track, something diabolical.
Okay.
And maybe more importantly, it mentions this sort of technical inventiveness of another track, Tiss. The author basically admits that, look, whatever you think of their whole deal, they had refined their art. That phrase stood out to me.
Refined their art. Interesting way to put it. Refined, maybe, but not exactly. Matured.
Exactly. That's the perfect way to phrase it. They got better at doing the specific thing the Bloodhound Gang does, the mix of genres, the production, the beats. It was clearly seen as musically competent enough to get third. But, yeah, the overall silliness, the lack of maybe deeper substance, kept it from cracking the top two.
Okay, so that brings us to the real nail-biter in the group. That fight for the second qualify spot, it came down to two giants of alternative and metal, Iron Maiden and The Cure. Maiden got second. The Cure ended up fourth, last place. Let's start with the one that lost out. The Cure's Wish. The author admitted having quite a bit of baggage going in, called it antipathy.
Yeah, and that context is absolutely vital here. The review explains this dislike stems from way back, from not connecting with Disintegration, which, is a hugely important, beloved album for many people.
But not for this reviewer. He called it a miserable excuse for a record. Ouch.
Yeah, pretty harsh. So Wish walks into this competition already carrying this massive negative weight from a totally different album.
So is it even possible to be objective then? If you already have that strong a feeling about the band's whole vibe?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? About any review, really.
Yeah.
How objective can anyone be? But it's interesting is, despite that history, the author does say that Wish, while, yeah, still pretty miserable in tone.
Which is kind of the Cure's thing.
Right, it's their brand.
Yeah.
But he says Wish is actually a stronger record than Disintegration. Now, coming from someone who actively dislikes their core sound, that's actually quite a compliment.
So what was it about Wish that managed to cut through that negativity, even a little bit?
He points to one track in particular, From the Edge of the Deep Green Sea, calls it a brilliant piece. It seems like he was really struck by the relentless rhythm guitar driving it, and Robert Smith's vocals described as desperate, melodramatic yearning. That intensity apparently made an impression.
Which is interesting because that's quite different from the album's big hit single.
Totally different, yeah. He contrasts that heavy drama with Friday I'm in Love, calling that one almost pop perfect. But in the end, that initial antipathy, that baggage, it just seemed too much.
Couldn't shape it off.
Pretty much. The author admits struggling to get through the whole album. And the final verdict, not bad, but not great. And when only the top two advance, not bad, but not great, means you're out. Last place.
Which brings us to Iron Maiden, scraping into that second spot with No Prayer for the Dying. Now, this album, it doesn't exactly have the legendary status of their 80s stuff, does it?
Not even close. Yeah, this is where we really hit that idea of the curse of high standards. If you're Iron Maiden, you put out albums like Seventh Son, like Somewhere in Time, benchmark records for the entire genre.
Right. You set the bar incredibly high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you follow that up with an album that's just okay, maybe even just good, fans, critics, everyone tends to see it as a failure. Your own past becomes your toughest competition.
So how did the review handle this relative dip? Was it seen as a total train wreck or just sort of,
It was definitely mixed. Not a disaster, but not glowing either. On the downside, one track, The Assassin, gets called fairly horrible.
Okay, not great.
No. But the overall feeling wasn't that the whole album was bad. It was more like not a disaster. He found some solid moments.
Like what were the redeeming parts?
Well, he mentions silent running deep, describes it as having this kind of heavy, chugging, almost submarine-like rhythm.
Interesting description.
Yeah. And then Public Enema #1 gets praise for sounding like it could have fit right onto Somewhere in Time, which is high praise, suggesting that classic Maiden sound.
And of course, it had the big single.
Can't forget that. It had Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, which actually went to #1 in the UK. Love it or hate it, it's a catchy, memorable track.
So you've got an album with some definite low points, a couple of tracks that feel like classic Maiden, and a huge hit single. And that's enough to advance. But the review sounded almost reluctant about why it advanced.
Oh, completely. The final verdict was brutally honest, basically saying Maiden got through because Group 158 overall was a little on the weak side. They didn't win on overwhelming merit. They won because the competition faltered. Specifically because The Cure couldn't overcome that reviewer bias.
So Maiden's decent but flawed record beat The Cure's stronger but still disliked record. Wow.
That's the takeaway, yeah.
Okay, let's pull this all together then. This one weird group, Group 158. The two advancing are Andy Williams and Iron Maiden. What did this little slice of the album quest actually teach us about how we listen to and judge music?
I think it offers maybe 3 key insights. First, the Andy Williams win shows that sheer polish and deep, ingrained familiarity can absolutely crush innovation or even critical acclaim in a head-to-head like this. Comfort wins.
Okay, lesson 1. Comfort can trump legacy. What's 2?
Lesson 2 is the Iron Maiden issue. Setting the bar too high yourself can be a curse. A perfectly decent album gets perceived as a failure simply because it's not another masterpiece. Your own history works against you.
Right, the curse of high standards. And the third lesson, that must be The Cure.
Exactly. It shows just how powerful personal baggage and prior judgments are. The reviewer went in with this deep-seated dislike for The Cure's sound, and even though he recognized Wish they had strong points, maybe even stronger than Disintegration for it.
It wasn't enough.
Wasn't enough.
Yeah.
That initial feeling, that antipathy, was basically impossible to shake. It proved that sometimes the biggest hurdle to appreciating music isn't the music itself. It's the listener's own history and biases.
So, a really surprising pair moving on in the album quest then. Andy Williams and Iron Maiden. You couldn't make it up.
It really shows the beautiful chaos of the whole project. And, here's something maybe to chew on, a final thought for you listening. The author mentions, almost as an aside, that Maiden's later stuff, post-2000, has been seen as very good.
Interesting.
So if that's the case, how much of the lukewarm reaction to No Prayer for the Dying back then was really about the album itself? And how much was just because it had the misfortune of following their absolute peak 80s run? Think about your own collection. Is there an album in there that's actually pretty good objectively, but you always rank it low just because it came after something truly groundbreaking by the same artist? Which album in your library suffers the most from its own band's amazing past?
That's a great question to leave things on. Really makes you reconsider what good even means in context. Keep thinking, keep listening, and keep your own knowledge album quest alive. We'll catch you next time.